Okay, good evening. Welcome to the Falls Township Board of Supervisors meeting for May 6, 2014. We'll begin our meeting with the salute to the flag, please. Okay, thank you. Mrs. Pullen, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Galloway?
Here.
Mr. Bransky? Mr. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Dents?
Here.
Mr. Rocco?
Here. Okay, let the record show Mr. Boraski had to work this evening, so he's unable to be with us. I want to thank everybody for being here. We have a pretty good agenda, good positive things going on. And we're starting off with a very positive thing. One of the things since I've been part of the Board of Supervisors for the past several years, a thing that's been missing, I think, is a connection between this board and the school district. Now, we have good relationships with a lot of school directors, know many of them very personally. We work together very well on a lot of issues, but certainly I think that this board, even before I came on, has been a little bit lax in recognition of things that our students at the Pennsbury School District do. And I want to make a change to that, which I hope lasts, forever, by recognizing the achievements of some of the athletes and students at Pennsbury when they reflect very positively upon what we do or on our community and through what they do. This past March, the Pennsbury High School JV and varsity cheerleading squads took part in the U.S. Spirit National Competition in Orlando, Florida, competing against 24 schools all over the country, and ended up winning both the JV and varsity national championship, something that they should be very, very proud of, and we're very proud of them. And I contacted the coach of this team, Ms. Nicole Roberts, who's a teacher at Pennsbury, and invited her and her squad here this evening to be recognized, and it's our pleasure to present this commendation to them, which I'll read, and then we'll let them, I think the captains want to say a few words, and then we'll present this to them. There's a lot of whereases in here. I'll cut through some of that, but the Board of Supervisors of Falls Township is the duly elected governing body of the Township of Falls and feels it's important to recognize individuals and organizations who make valuable contributions to the lives of the citizens of Falls. The Pennsbury cheerleading squads, with varsity and junior varsity, competed in and won the U.S. Spirit National Championship in March of this year. Through their efforts, the Pennsbury High School cheerleaders brought recognition and pride to the citizens of Falls Township and continue to serve as valuable representatives of the community of the Township of Falls and the other communities in the Pennsbury School District. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of the Township of Falls, on behalf of the citizens of Falls Township, does hereby issue this commendation to the cheerleaders and the coaches of the Pennsbury High School cheerleading squad, congratulating them for their hard work and dedication and for their success on a national level of competition, proclaimed the 6th day of May, 2014. Is there a motion to authorize this commendation?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I don't imagine anybody's opposed, so congratulations first off. I'm going to say a few words, and then we'll come down and present this to you.
Thank you for acknowledging our hard work and our success with the conclusion of our season in bringing national championship titles back to Pennsbury. It is through the dedication and hard work of our team members and coaches that this was possible. Our cheer season begins in May and ends in March, and consists of not only taking the time to perfect our skills to compete locally and nationally, but also cheer for our school sports, fundraise, and participate in volunteer activities. We always try to make Pennsbury proud of us, orange, black, and white forever.
You're not gonna get in the pictures? Oh, okay.
Probably sit and still be seen. I can't sit and be seen. How come your coach isn't in the picture?
Yeah, coach, why don't you get in the picture?
Maybe Mr. Dents will lead them in a cheer.
Yeah, maybe.
That's a good idea.
It's been a long time since you did a split. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that'll work. Nice. Thank you for not reading all the whereases.
I'm learning after 10 years.
You didn't? No. Why wouldn't you do? Yeah, no, don't. That shows up on the tape, you're done. Donald Sterling.
Not that I'm looking. I didn't notice. I just pointed it out.
I'm not sure that has anything to do with it.
There's a little bit to do with it.
Somebody came out and gave a little peek.
I just remembered that.
And all you can see.
All right, we want to again thank Ms. Roberts, Mrs. Roberts, excuse me, the coach of the team, and all the ladies who come out this evening and their families. I know there were some who couldn't make it, but obviously they share in the honor of the competition, and we congratulate all of them, for a job well done and for all the hard work they put in. So, all right, we'll move on to public comment, which is our first agenda item. We have a 5-minute limit per person, 45-minute maximum. We have a couple names on the list. Roland Kenny?
I just want to say a few things to people who've been coming up and asking me, saying to me, I was right on Benghazi from last year. They're hearing everything I told them then. It's turned out to be the truth, and they didn't know why I stopped. The reason I stopped was there was a board member felt that I shouldn't talk about anything but township business, and I can understand that, and that's why I stopped talking about it. But I'm glad it's finally coming out in the open. God bless you. Good night.
Leader Mariani? No? Okay. All right, those are all the names on the list. Anybody else wish to speak? Okay. All right, I'm going to move to agenda item number 2, which is South End Water and Storage Facility. This is a minor subdivision and land development at 791 West Bridge Street. Mr. Gray.
Yes, this is for tax map parcel 132882 and 132883-1. The applicant is looking to provide a water storage tank and pumping station to be built on tax map parcel 132883-1. Public water and sewer service the site. Here tonight to discuss the item is Mr. Downey, but he's not here at the time.
Okay. All right. And if we don't mind, yeah, that's it. I was going to ask if you could set the easels up, just so I guess we could see some of the materials you have, and if you have another extra copies, show it to the people behind you while we're waiting for Mr. Downey to come back. All right. There's Mr. Downey.
Yes, sir.
Yep, you're up, Mr. Downey.
Thank you, sir. Don't mind, I'll stand here rather than the podium.
Well, we just need to use microphone, sorry. You can take the microphone out if you want to, it's up to you. No, Mr. Downey, you need to use the microphone so we can get you on tape, I'm sorry. You need to, I meant you could pull it out and hold it while you spoke.
You set?
Okay,
Thank you. Good evening, members of the board. I'm here on behalf of the Municipal Authority of the Borough of Morrisville. We are requesting this evening preliminary and final approval of a minor subdivision, land development for construction of a 2.5 million gallon water tank. It will be located at 791 West Bridge Street at My Lane. For the record, it's tax map parcel numbers 13-28-82, 13-28-83-1. So as to show that the property is presently owned by a Neil Lubo, to show that we have standing to be here this evening, I do have a copy of the land purchase agreement between the authority and Mr. Neil Lubo. I don't know how you want me to mark these, but applicant one, petitioner one.
I don't think it's necessary. I think it's part of the, it has already been made. part
I'm
of the
not sure
file.
if we have that. I'm not sure if we
We
have
just
the
have it
lease.
for our files, that'd be.
Yeah, if you can
sufficient.
present it to the solicitor.
Yep.
Thank you.
Happy to give Mr. Clark anything else.
Thank you, Mr. Down.
Careful what you say.
I'd also like to, for part of, all of you may not be aware, we did appear before the Planning Commission on November 26th of 2013, got the Planning Commission's blessing for this project. We appeared before the Zoning Hearing Board on February 11th, 2014, to obtain variances, all of which were granted. I don't know if you have a copy of either item, but I can certainly present to you a copy of the decision of the Zoning Hearing Board as authored by the solicitor. Have a copy of that.
Yeah, we have a copy of the review letter from the township engineer. We also have a copy of the resolution, which contains the waivers that you've requested,
Yes, sir.
and they do make mention of the waivers that were granted by the zoning board.
I can present a full written copy dated February 28th from the solicitor to your solicitor, so the record is complete.
I think we have that. I think we're okay with that. Thank you.
It would be my intention, with your permission, to present hopefully just two witnesses. I'd like to summarize the background of all of this with your permission.
Sure.
I would like to call to confirm my summary the superintendent of the water treatment plant of the authority, Mr. Chris Harris, and then go through the waivers with Pannoni Engineer Representative, Mr. Christopher Walker. So I will proceed with your permission.
That's fine. Yes.
First of all, a little bit of background. The authority is under a consent order from the Department of Environmental Protection of the Commonwealth to build an additional potable, or potable, however it's pronounced these days, water tank facility. To that end, I do have a copy of that consent order, if you wish that for your record. I doubt if you have that.
I don't know if we might actually have that at some point, but we've had a long conversation. This has been ongoing. I know we've had some various discussions with members of the Morrisville Authority about the need for this for quite a while, so we're well aware of the consent order.
I didn't want to assume anything.
No,
I
that's
hope
fine.
All right,
I
thank you,
appreciate it.
sir. As you probably are well aware, as you said, you're familiar with this, the authority provides potable water to some 4,200 customers in Falls Township, Morrisville Borough, and Lower Makefield. We have two storage facilities which have proven to be not sufficient. There was a failure in the system on August 2nd of 2009, and a boil water warning had to be issued. As a result of that failure, this consent order was issued, which requires a minimum of 2 million gallons additional storage. We have tried some 11 different sites, 4 of which were possible. This one we submit is the best. It is essential for the authority to provide not only potable water to the Township of Falls, part of it, Morrisville Borough, and Lower Makefield Township, its service area, but also to provide sufficient water pressure and, just as important, fire protection. So,
I apologize, Mr. Downey. Our audio technician is letting us know that you have to speak a little more into the microphone.
All
Thank
right.
you. Sorry.
it's been a long time since someone said they couldn't hear me. The area is zoned highway commercial as essential service. We submit that what we're providing is an essential service. I do have, for your edification, I don't know if you have this, a photograph of a similar tank. This one would be something in excess of 50 feet tall.
Can I see it?
Certainly.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll hand it directly to you, sir.
Yeah, that could start with me, sure. Thank you.
Yeah, he'll pass it down the line.
Yeah, I want to see it
Picture of
first.
this. Get back to the mic over here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This looks like Middletown.
That obviously is a photocopy of a water tank, photocopy of a photograph of a water tank. That tank is owned by the Lower Bucks County Joint Municipal Authority. It is located across the street from the auto dealership and next to what is going out of business, the dump on Route 1. It is some 50-some feet high, which this one will be also. It's a similar concrete tank. I would like to just to present for your edification and your record, Mr. Harris, just to confirm what I've said. Technically isn't sufficient for the advocate to say it, so I will call Mr. Chris Harris first.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. I can personally vouch for Mr. Downey's statements with our consent order and our need for the additional storage in the system. Like we're actually required to have 24 hours of usable storage in the system at any time, and at this point we have approximately 6 to 8 hours.
Okay. And this this tank would meet the 24. Would help
This
you
will
meet
meet our 24-hour.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Well, I guess we'll let Mr. Johnny continue. We might come back if board members have questions for Mr. Harris. Okay.
I was just, as Mr. Harris said, just going to ask you to confirm what I said as to the background of this, as to the storage and what is required for us.
Can't be standing over there.
And what is demanded by the Department of Environmental Protection by reason of their consent order. I just also wanted to confirm that we have looked at 11 different sites, and this one has proven to be the best one simply by reason of proximity. And Mr. Harris knows the technical specs far better than I've ever hoped to. It is located at the address I stated. There are, I believe, water lines near to it that can be.
Yes, we have a what we could consider a transmission line that's approximately 2.5 blocks from this site. What we actually require is to have a tank somewhere near these transmission lines to be able to get the water out into the system and through all the feeder lines off of those transmission lines.
Okay.
My representation as to pressure and fire suppression also correct?
Yes.
Sir. That's all the questions I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. That's fine.
Thank you. I would like to go through the format of resolution that has been given to us by your offices and do that with Mr. Christopher Walker of Pannoni Engineers. I don't know how we're going to do this microphone, but I'll speak real loud and let him be heard.
Okay.
Could you identify yourself, sir, just for the supervisors?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Walker from Pannoni Associates. I am the project engineer for this project.
And you are familiar with the necessary waivers and objects and you have brought with you some poster boards to show the outline of the property, have you not, sir?
Yes, we are in receipt of the Township Engineers letter dated April 25th. There are 14 waivers that were required, and the remaining items will comply. And we would be happy to go through all the items, the waivers, one at a time if you'd like. I could also give you just a brief description of the project using a pointer.
Yeah, just give, if you don't mind, a brief description of what exactly you're doing. There is, this right now is one lot. You're subdividing it so that you can have the back lot just for what Marsville Authority wants. The front half would stay as South End Auto. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And just give us an idea of what we're looking at here. Obviously, the big round thing in the center is the tank. What are the other, there's an access road obviously coming in. What are the other structures and things you're doing?
Sure. Thank you. This is my lane. The proposed access to our site is off of my lane, so there'll be a driveway, small parking area for the authority vehicles to enter the site. Approximately once a week, there's a pump station building, and of course the water storage tank. Also included in the project are 2 stormwater detention facilities.
Okay. All right. If you wouldn't mind, either Mr. Walker or Mr. Downey or both, just as kind of go through the waivers that are being requested, kind of briefly in terms of what exactly you're looking for and why.
Sure, I can do that. Just following the order of the April 25th letter from the Township engineer, there's a waiver request for not providing sidewalks along both lots 1 and 2. There's also a waiver request for not providing curbs along our new driveway. The purpose for requesting that waiver is that the authority has complete access to their site where the curbs would confine their access to the area around the tank. The next waiver request has to do with providing open space between a building and your parking. The authority wants to have access right up to the building where they have a garage door so they can get to the inside of the pump station building. The next waiver outlined in the letter has to do with, again, sidewalks. And the need for the waiver is because the property is not conducive of providing sidewalks.
Right.
There's swales and there are areas paved right up to the buildings currently where it's not practical to provide the sidewalks. Continuing with the letter, there's a additional waiver request for grading right up to the property line where the section requires that you stay 5 feet away, and the authority is going to be actually grading right up to the property line to correct and supplement additional berms that exist there. So that's the need for that waiver.
Can you give the section number when you read it, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. So again, that was section 191-44D, which requires that you not grade within 5 feet of the property line. The next item is also a waiver. That's 191-48, and that is a waiver request for providing street trees. And again, we're asking a waiver for that section requirement because of the paving along West Bridge Street that actually goes right up to the building. It's very difficult to put trees in those areas. But trees are being provided on other locations of the site. The next item is actually section 191-52, and that's just stating that there is a requirement to obtain permits from the Conservation District and also the NPDS permit, and that's a will comply. The next item was 191-52.1 B2B. That's also will comply. That has just to do with obtaining permits and altering of the wetlands, and we are required to get permits from the DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers. The next section, 191-52.1 B8A, that has to do with a requirement that you're not permitted to disturb the wetland margin area because the property is actually surrounded by wetlands. The wetland margin area covers the majority of our lot, so that's the need for that waiver request. The next waiver, 191-52.1 C2A, has to do with protection of the wetlands. And because of our proposed driveway, this is the wetlands area here along my lane, and our driveway will have to cross the wetlands. So we'll have a driveway culvert there, and so there's a waiver request. just a few more. The next waiver was 19161A, and that's a waiver, again, having to do with sidewalks. The next one, 19162, another waiver request similar to an earlier one having to do with curbs. Waiver 191-71, that section, again, requires street trees, and we spoke about that before. Under the stormwater management ordinance, there's just 3 waivers. 187-12C, having to do with the slope, the bottom slope of the detention facility. And because we're promoting infiltration and treatment into our facility, we wanted to have the flat bottom. And that requirement states that provide a 1% minimum slope, so there's a waiver request there. The next item, 18712P, has to do with providing calculations in our stormwater report, and that's a will comply. The next item, 18713B1, is a waiver request having to do with the smallest permitted size of stormwater pipe. Our detention facilities will just have a small 6-inch drainage pipe, which is adequate for the purposes that it serves. So there was a waiver request there. 187-13E3, that's a will comply, just providing the requested information to be shown on our plans with regard to the drainage channels. Last waiver, 187-14C, that's just a waiver request having to do with how you do your calculations and the requirement that the entire site be treated as meadow when you're calculating the pre-development flow rate. The last 2 items have to do with the fact that we need a PennDOT permit to do our work within the state right-of-way. That's a will comply. And also, lastly, the will comply for the township design standards.
Okay. All right.
Everything okay with you, Sparky?
She wants me to explain something.
Okay, well, we'll open up to board comment or questions for either Mr. Downey, Mr. Harris, or Mr. Walker, or any of our professionals, of course. Mr. Galloway?
Yeah, I just saw that there was a request from the fire marshal that a fire hydrant be installed. Is
Where
that,
Yes, there will be a fire hydrant provided at the intersection of West Bridge Street and My Lane. Can't see that actually on this plan because it's off the sheet, but there will be a hydrant provided as requested by the fire marshal.
all right, thanks, that's all.
Okay. Mr. Dents?
Yes, the wetlands, the only wetlands are between MY Lane and your property that are being disturbed, is that right?
Yes, the wetlands are here along My Lane, and we will be grading a driveway over that and installing a culvert.
So that's the only wetlands being disturbed is the...
There are additional wetlands off-site of our property that we're not disturbing with this project. You can see there's a line right here that represents the additional wetlands on the adjacent property.
Still in the middle of Route 1. Okay, my next one was, let me find my bearings here on this. 18712C. Oh, the waiver, 18712C, requesting a waiver from this section of the ordinance which requires a minimum slope of 1% in the bed of the stormwater management facilities. Why is that required?
Okay. Yeah, here are the 2 stormwater detention facilities. The on-site improvements will drain to these facilities. They'll have flat bottoms so that the stormwater can drain through soils,
Okay.
purify the water before it's discharged out into our proposed swell. They're small basins. They do have flat bottoms just so that the water will go through the soil slowly rather than running off quickly from the site.
Is that normal, Mr. Sullivan?
That's the normal way to combine water quality with detention. And they do have under drains, so they're not relying completely on infiltration. They will drain.
What about the storm pipe size going from 15 inches to 6 inches? That
Well-
seems kind of drastic.
That's my question, yeah.
It would look drastic. That's mostly in the detention basin area. It's only in the detention basin area, correct?
That's correct. It's only in those two areas where we have the proposed detention.
And they have a number of cleanouts to be able to maintain that system on the 6-inch pipe. So
You think 6 inches is adequate?
for what they're using it for, yes.
And what's the need to reduce the size from 15 to 6?
It's just providing adequate cover over the pipes.
And where are the pipes going to be located?
These dots represent the cleanouts. So essentially, each dot will be connected with a pipe, and they will discharge into a proposed swale that's located in the rear of the property.
Okay, that's all I have right now.
Thank you.
Mr. Rocco?
Yeah, one of the questions I had, Mr. Dents just asked, that was 18713B1 about the size of the pipe. Is there currently a water tank in Marsville? Okay, where's that located?
Located on the
Actually, we have two tanks located within the system. One tank is on the property of the wastewater plant in the south portion of Morrisville, down off of Delaware Avenue. The other tank is actually up on the other side of Trenton Avenue, up on Walnut Lane.
Okay, are they 50 feet as proposed here?
Actually, the tank at the wastewater treatment plant is a elevated tank. That's a 500,000 gallon tank. That tank is actually approximately 212 feet tall. And the standpipe on Walnut Lane is approximately 110 feet tall.
And this proposed is 50?
56 and a half, I believe it is.
Is the finish going to be like the picture?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, if you don't conform to the DEP, is that who is requiring you to do this?
Yes.
What, is there a penalty or is there?
Very high penalty, yes.
Okay.
Consent order that's existed for almost 5 years. And they have put constant pressure on us, understandably, to build an additional 2 million gallons of water storage because of the failure that took place back in '09. They have been very understanding about the difficulty to secure a proper facility to build at least 2 million. This would hold 2.5 million gallons of water. And what it would provide is, what we have now, I think, is 8 days of water if there's a failure. 6 to 8 hours, and we have to provide a week?
24.
24 hours. I'll get it one of these days. And we are obviously well short of that and need this 2 million to 2.5 million gallons of storage to comply with their order. I'm sure the Township of Falls, its engineer and solicitor, and all of you have dealt with the Commonwealth Department of Environmental Protection. And it's not a matter of, well, go do it when you want to. It's do it yesterday or else. Yes, sir. We are under the gun, literally.
Okay, and what would be the time frame for construction?
Well, I have one other person who can answer that. That's Mr. James McCann from Pannoni Engineers.
I'm James McCann, the authority engineer. We're proposing to secure our permits from the DEP for the construction of this tank by August of this year and receive bids in September and issue a contract, and under the current schedule, under the consent order, have construction completed by the end of 2015, have the tank and pumping station in service.
Okay. So it's a pretty big job.
Yeah, it's a several $million construction project. It's an aggressive schedule.
Yeah. For the zoning hearing board, did notifications go out to any of the existing, I don't know how many residents are around there?
It was several hundred, sir, and letters were sent pursuant to your ordinance to each and every one of them. Copies of all of the letters were introduced into evidence. I think 2 or 3 folks showed up. No one protested, so.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank
No, I don't. I don't have any questions. Mr. Sullivan, any comments from you? Any of these waivers that you have a concern about?
I would just like to have an indication of what the area of disturbance is of the wetlands.
I believe the driveway culvert is 40 feet long, so it'd be approximately 40 linear feet by the width of the wetlands, which is about 40 feet. There is a permit that's required. I believe it's a GP7.
GP permit, yeah, not a
GP permit, and that's in the process of being prepared and submitted.
I have no objection.
These so-called wetlands is a small piece that's
Yeah.
between MY Lane and
Right.
an existing junkyard.
Right.
So it's not like we're disturbing wetland, or you're disturbing wetlands that are,
Not high-quality wetlands, no.
yeah, right.
It's a drainage ditch.
It's a drainage ditch.
Drainage ditch, right.
I was wondering, because I kept looking on the map and I kept seeing the lines that were a wetlands delineation, and I couldn't make sense of why the lines seemed to just seem kind of oval shape, and I wasn't sure what I was missing, but now it makes sense. It's just a very, very narrow band right across right next to the road, and as Mr. Dent said, right up against an existing, South End Auto Parts, which is a junkyard. So, yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I was thinking too, I want to make sure people understand that we're not sort of encouraging
not
people to
building
destroy some kind of pristine wetlands. It's far from what those are. So, Mr. Rocco, something else?
Yeah, the Lot 1, are you taking ownership of that as well?
No, that will remain as it
Yeah,
is being
because
used
some of
today.
the waiver requests were for both. I was curious as to why.
Because of where the proposed lot line was being shown.
Okay, understood.
Now, you said something about wetlands in the back part of that lot, too.
The very
They're
bottom.
not being disturbed, though?
Very bottom part.
That's correct.
And even that's landlocked between two highways, so to
Yes,
speak.
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay.
If I answer the prior question, there were 291 notices sent from January 10 through January 17 of 2014, all received as far as we know.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Sullivan, anything else from you?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, any public comment? See no hands. Okay, so this is again a resolution looking for minor subdivision of the lot and also land development. This is preliminary and final granting. Okay, Mr. Sullivan, any concerns from you about that?
No concerns, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Gray, this will be resolution 14-.
13.
Okay. All right, any final comments or questions? If not, is there a motion to approve resolution 1413?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Somebody does. I'm all prepared for it. Yeah, don't pen this.
You're the man, Mr. Harris. I see.
How you doing, Jim? Good to see you.
Well, now we figure out
Thank you.
we were.
Thank you, sir.
I'm just curious.
All right, next item on our agenda is a amended final plan of land development for Abington Reldon, 550 Old Bordentown Road. Mr. Gray?
Yes, as mentioned, this is for Abington Reldan. The applicant is looking to construct a canopy adjacent to an existing building and install a trench drain.
Good evening.
Evening.
I'm Dean Reniker from Gilmore and Associates. I have with me tonight Don Rocket, DMR Construction, and we're here on behalf of Abington Reldon Management. The plan you have in front of you tonight is basically just a very simple addition to the existing building that was built in the last few years. Mr. Ralkett built that building for Abington Reldon, and basically the two things that are being proposed, I'll point out on the plan for you. The first item, this is the existing building here, and this is the phase one part of the project, which has been built. Phase two we're not concerned with at this point. The proposal in front of you tonight is to build a 42 by 34 foot canopy and an existing door that will be built over an existing paved area, so there won't be any additional impervious area. And the other proposed item to be added is along this existing concrete pad, they want to put in a trench drain, capture that water, and eventually send it back to the detention facility, which is on this side of the property. So those are basically just the only two items. This is being filed as an amended final plan. Gilmore and Associates did the plans originally, and like I said, the building has been built, and at this point in time, we're just hoping to do those two items.
Okay. All right, I know it's a pretty straightforward, pretty simple plan. Any board comment or questions for the gentleman from Abington Reldon or for Mr. Sullivan? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Dents?
This is as cut and dry as it seems, Mr. Sullivan, and just a canopy and a drain?
Yes, absolutely.
So why do they need to come in front of us?
Because of the size of the canopy.
Because of the size of the canopy?
Yeah, it becomes a land development, and since they already had a land development still under approval, they had to come in for an amended final plan.
Okay. I'm still learning, you know? It doesn't seem, like Mr. Dent says, it seems pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have any comments or questions. Like I said, it's a very simple plan. Any public comment needed? See no hands. All right, this will be Resolution 1414. All right. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 1414, amended final plan?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 4 is a presentation by URS engineers for the Trenton Avenue Corridor PCTI study. Mr. Gray, you want to introduce this?
Yes, thank you. This is a presentation on the Trenton Avenue Corridor Plan. This plan recommends a series of transportation, land use, and policy improvements to help create a safer, more efficient, and more consistent corridor that serves the needs of the adjacent neighbors as well as visitors to the corridor. This process began in September 2013. The participants included Falls Township, Lower Makefield Township, Marshville Borough, PennDOT, and DVRPC. Tonight, representing URS engineers is Mr. Doug Robbins to make the presentation.
No, we moved that thing around a little bit, Mr. Robbins, so I apologize for, you probably had it all set up at first, but then we messed it up on you. Okay. There you go.
Sorry about that. My name is Doug Robbins. I'm a planner and urban designer with URS. We've been the consultant working on the Trenton Avenue Corridor Plan. we've also been working with Drive Engineering, has been doing our counts, traffic counts for this. And we've been working within URS as a team of planners and traffic and transit experts to look at the Trenton Avenue corridor here. And so tonight, real briefly, I just want to give you an overview of kind of what this project has been about, why we're doing it, where exactly the project is. It actually does touch 3 municipalities, who's been involved in the process to date, some of the big things that we learned in kind of the data analysis portion, and then touching on some of the priority recommendations, kind of the headlines from the plan. So the why of why we're planning here. There was a grant received through DVRPC for Falls, Lower Makefield, and Morrisville to look at the Trenton Avenue corridor. The funds were really looking at the safety engineering and aesthetic improvements to the corridor. It's very unique in that it touches 3 municipalities. I think that makes it very interesting when you start to look at potential funding sources, but also a potential headache when you look at kind of managing a lot of the improvements. A lot of things end up being pretty complicated. And really our goal all along has been to kind of dig through and start to articulate what are the most important things and kind of float those to the top so that each municipality can kind of have basically a prioritized punch list of the things that we found to be the most important in terms of recommendations and to move those forward. So where we are. So right here, it's a little hard to see. This red triangle, Trenton Avenue is right through here. This is the Calhoun Street Bridge here on the eastern edge. So our boundary goes from Pine Grove Road all the way east to the river. And so it encompasses the small island of Falls Township that's kind of broken away from the rest of Falls Township, and it also has frontage on Lower Makefield, which is kind of on our western edge, and then the rest of the frontage along Trenton Avenue through the study area is in Morrisville Borough. And in terms of the actual scope of it, we really just looked and focused on the properties that immediately fronted Trenton Avenue. We didn't go too far back into the neighborhoods beyond. So who's been involved? Obviously, trying to engage in all the townships and municipalities involved. We've had a very good active steering committee that's kind of been moving this process through since September. The consultant, and then the public. And one of the reasons here tonight too is not only giving the board a look at the draft plan and to receive comments from the board on the draft plan, but also give an opportunity to the public and hopefully to coordinate getting the plan on the township website for public comment for a week so we can get some feedback from the public on ideas about prioritization, things like that, making sure that we haven't missed anything major or if something is extremely important to folks. So some of the big things. It's a pretty eclectic corridor. There's a lot going on. Really, to kind of make sense of it from a priority standpoint and from just a way to think about it, we broke it up into 4 what we called character areas. On the western edge, here's Pine Grove. We had the big box character area. East of that, once you get past the Big Oak interchange, is the mixed-use transition area. And that's really where we're starting to transition from the kind of big box uses on the western edge to the residential character area directly to the east. And then finally, once you get down towards the Delmore intersection is the Riverfront and Morrisville Shopping Center area. So there's a lot going on in these maps, and I apologize. But what these end up being is really a summary of all of the data and analysis that we did. And we did quite a bit in terms of counts. We did traffic counts, through counts, and all turning movements for 9 intersections along the corridor, really with the intention that whatever recommendations came out of this were kind of rooted in issues about safety and kind of moving traffic efficiently through the corridor and making sure everything was kind of rooted in solid data. So this is the big box area. This obviously was labeled at the beginning of this process. I believe this is now going to be the Planet Fitness down here where we have Sears labeled. So again, this reaching from Pine Grove to the Big Oak intersection. And a few things just wanted to point out in the following maps. Anywhere where there's green is where we have sidewalk and it's in good condition. Anywhere we have yellow is where we do have a sidewalk, but it's either narrow, too narrow per AASHTO standards, or it's in rough shape. And where we have red is where we have no sidewalks. So a few things in the big box. One is when we looked at crash data over the last 5 years, it was no huge surprise that the most accidents on any intersection by far was on Pine Grove, as well as turning movements and traffic volume. A lot of it was focused on the western edge of the corridor here. The other thing is the no sidewalk issue. This is really below this kind of emblem here is where the Friendlies is along there. And if you've ever been along here, there's lots of continuous curb cuts, meaning that the parking lots just kind of pour seamlessly into the street. There's no curbs and there's no sidewalks. Right in the middle, actually adjacent to here, not only there, but there's a small sign here for a SEPTA bus stop that is just kind of in the middle of a swale. So moving further east, the mixed-use character area. And this is something where a keen eye will detect the alternating between residential and commercial, then back to residential and back to commercial. And if you look at that compared to where the municipal boundaries lie, it's no surprise that it's actually lines up quite neatly with where Morrisville and Falls Township kind of interlock on the corridor. Where the zoning in Morrisville is predominantly residential along the corridor through this section, Falls Township is predominantly commercial. So really looking at how does that, how does it affect users? How does that affect people moving and traveling along the corridor? And again, here we don't have much red, so we don't have the absence of sidewalks here. We just have a lot of narrow sidewalks. So it's pretty good. They're sidewalks, but they're not as good as they could be. The residential character area is almost 100% residential for a number of blocks. And this becomes an area where we're shifting more and more towards Morrisville on both sides of the street. Really here, the only major issue is narrow sidewalks, and that really just has to do with the age of the neighborhood itself. It's really nothing to do with the quality of the sidewalks. They were just built when the sidewalk standards weren't what they are today. So they're a little old, they're a little beat up, and they're a little narrow, but other than that, they're there. On the far eastern edge, we have the Riverfront Morrisville Shopping Center area. Whoops. Hit one of these buttons. So here we have the Delmore intersection. That's our intersection on the far right. And if anybody's been there, it's right before you get to the Calhoun Street Bridge. It's also the access to the D&L Trail below. Got a very nice trail access point there. The intersection itself was recently fixed up. There's ADA ramps. There's the kind of nice ornate poles and things there. It's a very tricky intersection in terms of sight distance. There's a lot of topography happening there. And it's also not terribly surprising where we've had the largest concentration of peds and bikes that we counted, because we also counted not only cars but pedestrian and bicycle movement at all these intersections. So it was no peak, no big surprise, especially on Saturday where we saw a peak of 15 bicycles at peak hour moving through the intersection, which is pretty good. So we prepared just a few kind of renderings and before and after images to kind of emphasize how some of the recommendations would play into some of the major issues. The biggest, perhaps, of the entire corridor is access management, really just the issue of getting people in and out of properties. And it's relatively haphazard. This is further down actually in the mixed-use character area. This is obviously the Burger King here. Right behind the camera is where the McDonald's is, and this is the abandoned gas station. And as you can see here, it's just wide open, kind of seamless from the street right into the property. So an easy thing to do first, kind of a phase one that's relatively inexpensive in terms of its capital cost, but still requires careful interaction with property owners, is just to start painting where you want people to come in and out. Just start to organize the physical space a little bit. The cost is as simple as a can of paint, but of course it means talking with those property owners, figuring out where do you want people to come in and out of your properties. It's no guarantee that folks will use it, but it works quite well psychologically just to help organize the space. Beyond that, the next piece is really to look at putting in curbs and really kind of organizing the space physically. Curbs, sidewalks, and actually putting some space between the sidewalks and the street itself. And then finally, the hopeful goal is to make it just a greener and kind of lusher corridor and actually bring some landscaping up into the street. And again, this would be a kind of final phase, and acknowledging the fact that you're not going to be able to find funding to kind of jump directly to this phase, but that everything should be iterative. Everything should be able to kind of be piled on and make this corridor better and better over time. So here's the space in the big box where there are no sidewalks, and directly behind me is the SEPTA sign where there's a bus stop sign just on a pole. Here's the Friendlies, the CVS. And the idea here, actually you can see, if you see the Friendlies, there's access, there's actually benches, and then there's a sidewalk, and the sidewalk just stops, and just stops right at the end of a swale, right there. So the idea being, how do you take standards and ideas and actually apply them to some of the actual physical places? What might they look like? So this, again, being an end condition where you've brought in an ADA accessible ramps, you've put a sidewalk through there, tapping into the existing kind of stub coming out of Friendlies, reinforced connections at the intersections, and been able to use landscaping to address stormwater management, to actually make those swales kind of super swales that actually function much better than just grass themselves. So beyond that, another issue is just an issue of consistency, of just making things more consistent. And this is where it becomes tricky because we have 3 municipalities that are touching this corridor. So it's a very easy thing for me to say, oh, wouldn't it be great if everything was kind of consistent? But knowing that that's actually going to be a heavy lift, and when you do start to tackle things like landscaping, any sort of coordinated street furniture, improvements to lighting, and any sort of signage system, that's going to require pretty careful interaction with your neighbors in Lower Makefield and in Morrisville. So the prior to recommendations, really the things that all kind of floated to the top in terms of what we saw as the best bang for your buck and where we thought there was the best opportunity to secure funding. So the first one I mentioned, the using paint to delineate clear access to properties. Again, this is more political capital than money, but really to figure out how to, talk to some of those property owners and figure out how can we start to reorganize this space so it's a little more efficient. The other is fill in the gaps in the sidewalk network. And this, again, is mostly in the big box area. This is something that it's expensive, but there actually is a lot of pretty viable funding sources that fund pedestrian improvements like filling in gaps in sidewalk networks. So this is, in terms of finding funding for, would be a relatively easy thing to do. The bus stop signage is really about coordinating with SEPTA, just making sure things are visible. We talked to SEPTA in this process. We looked at the bus counts, who's getting on and off the buses. The counts are very low for the corridor, and it's to the point where SEPTA wouldn't make a capital improvement in terms of bus stops or any sort of physical infrastructure like that unless there was a pretty dramatic spike in ridership. And we don't really see that, especially from our demographics analysis, happening anytime soon. So really just addressing the system that's there today. There are bus stops. People do use them every day. Not a ton of people, but people do. And at the very least, we should have very kind of clear, organized bus stop signage. And that can help, too, with some of the kind of access and just general organization of the corridor. And the other is really looking at bundling traffic and safety improvements at key intersections. So we have Pine Grove, Plaza, Pennsylvania, and Delmore. So kind of 2 on the western edge and 2 on the eastern edge. They're signalized intersections. They're all at various levels of kind of completion in terms of safety and pedestrian improvements. Some of them have countdown timers for pedestrians. Some of them have ADA ramps. The recommendations really looked at every single intersection and said, how do we kind of bring them all up to a nice kind of steady level? So really that just sums up the top recommendations. The key again in all of this in finding funding, and one of the things that we've looked at in terms of creating an actual implementation plan for the township is to provide guidance on who your responsible parties are, who you could team with, the advantages of teaming with folks, and what potential actual funding sources you could pursue to actually make some of this happen. So next steps for the plan, the draft plan that was included in your packets. Our hope is to post that actually on the township's website to open it up for a week of public comment and have comments back to URS within by May 14th, with the hope that we can incorporate obviously any comments that the board has tonight or obviously in the coming week with any comments from the public. We're also getting continuous feedback from our steering committee, from SEPTA, and from other kind of key stakeholders. So really kind of making sure that we have all our feedback in, and then come back at the next board meeting in May this month, just to sum up any changes to the plan and then present the final plan to the board.
Okay.
So I know that was a lot very quickly. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Okay. All right, we'll ask board members for comments or questions. We're not voting on anything with this evening. We'll talk to Mr. Gray after we hear some questions, maybe comments about putting it on the website and what's involved in that. Mr. Galloway.
I'll wait for comments till the final plan, but it was an interesting presentation. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Dents?
Yeah, no questions, but it's a very well presentation, very well presented. Thank you.
Mr. Rocco?
What was the time frame? Did I see 2013 to 2033 in here?
Yes. Yeah. When we do a traffic analysis, we look at when we do a traffic analysis and we look to make recommendations toward future, we actually look at a future build out. So actually project traffic. DVRPC provides traffic growth rates based on demographics and population growths and job growth for different regions, so we can actually project out what the traffic would essentially be like in 2033 to see if any intersections are essentially at like a tipping point, right? So if they're okay now, but if we grow them out and in 20 years we see it's going to go to F, then we should focus recommendations there. It's that notion. And in the appendix of the plan too, we'll have lots and lots. There was a pretty amazing amount of analysis that went into all of this, and really all from our traffic guys. I can't take any credit, but that was the purpose of going to 2033 is the kind of standard 30-year window.
Okay. Have you made this presentation to Marsville and Lower Make?
No, that is my hope. Is to I say hope only because we've reached out as part of the steering committee. They're a part of the steering committee, but we've actively tried to reach out to each of the municipalities for their feedback, and attendance hasn't been consistent, but I remain optimistic.
Well put.
Yeah.
But no, it is my intention, obviously, because all three municipalities have stake in this, and really, if some of these larger recommendations are going to be successful, they're going to depend on a relationship between, at the very least, kind of pairing off, especially with Falls Township and Morrisville, is kind of where the most dramatic kind of interlocking happens. So.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
No, I was at the open house presentation you had at Eleanor Roosevelt, where basically a lot of the slides you had were on a very large poster board, and it was unfortunate that we didn't really have any public come out to that. I mean, it was basically 2 hours open for anybody to come. No fault of yours, of course. It happened to be one of the one of the early days of the spring when the weather was
Very
just
nice
perfect,
night.
and it was. I think people just wanted anything but to be inside. They just were out somewhere, but no, I was very impressed with the work that was done. Very impressed with the presentation tonight, and I don't see an issue in terms of getting it on to the website at all. In terms of comments, I'm guessing that maybe you'll have some kind of contact information that you can, so that people contact you.
We'll provide essentially like a little like a blurb that we can put on the website. It's essentially saying, soliciting comments, what date we want them back, and who we email them to, so they'll have contacts at URS.
Okay. All right. Good. Anything else? Any further? All right, Mr. Robbins, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pete, why don't you give him Matt Markey's contact info, email?
Sure.
And we can get that on the website tomorrow, probably. I didn't know that. Told the mayor.
All right, we're going to move to agenda item number 5, which is consider proposal from Driftwood Water Adventures for services at the Falls Township Community Park. Mr. Gray?
Yes, recently the township received a proposal for kayak, canoe, and stand-up paddleboard rentals for services at the Falls Township Community Park. This would be from Driftwood Water Adventures. The board is asked to consider this proposal tonight. Representing Driftwood is Mr. Pat Mulhern and Mr. Bobby Moyer.
Okay. Mr. Moyer, good evening.
Good evening. How you guys doing today?
Good.
I want to start off by thanking you guys and everybody from Falls for last year. We had a successful first season. Started off a little slow, but it picked up as the year went on. We had great support from you guys, the park staff, security, all that kind of stuff. So I want to say thank you. Also the residents too. We had a lot of feedback from the residents via our Facebook page saying they're happy we're coming back and they had a great time last year and really appreciate what we're doing, which makes starting this season, fun. We had a variety of groups that came out last year, from families to school groups to special needs groups that came out and paddled with us. We had no incidents whatsoever, no issues, nobody got hurt, everything worked out really well. We made sure we wore their life jackets, everything was very safe, and we also helped out to get paddleboarding at the lake, and we make sure that people wear their life jacket and all that kind of stuff too, so I want to say that. We did change our name from PT Transformations to Driftwood Water Adventures. We have a web page now. Hopefully, at some point here, I'll connect it to your guys' web page. People can go on and link to us. We plan on doing some programs with your local summer camps. We have a water safety plan to do maybe at the Pinewood Pool with the kids and teach them about water safety and how to be safe in a kayak and paddleboard and all that kind of stuff. So I think that'll be a great addition to what they're doing at the summer camps now. Our official start is going to be Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. We'll start Saturday morning. We have a lot of new programs, and I think Pat's going to talk a little bit about our programs and how they kind of fit into our vision and what we're doing at the park.
Great, thank you. Thank you for having us here. This year, mid-season last year, we came back to everybody and we decided we want to try to move the paddleboard yoga to the park. It brought in a lot of people from outside the area. And your park is beautiful. It's picturesque. The clear water, it just made for the perfect setting for the paddleboard yoga. A lot of praise compared to some of the places that they have done it, where it was not clear water and murky and not very fun to get in and out of. This year, we're going to continue to do that along with the paddleboarding. We're going to have some other fitness. We're not going to just limit it to yoga. We're going to add in some more of a fitness genre, and that's really where the industry is going. It's not just us. It's using the paddleboard for balance and throwing a little bit of Pilates into it, a little bit of calisthenics. And we're pretty excited about that. I think it'll be well received by the participants that presently use the park now. You have an enormous amount of fitness conscious people that both like to participate in these programs, but also they were encouraged and inspired to watch the paddleboard yoga and seeing some of the people do the different poses. Some of them are quite talented. And it's always fun.
Okay. All right. And this is essentially the same kind of operation. Obviously, you're adding a few activities, but it's the same operation located in the same area as last year. And I think you got started, was it like late June or early July or something? Yeah, late June last year. Okay, so you're getting an extra month. Comments or questions, I guess, from board members for either Mr. Moyer, Mr. Mulhern, or Mr. Gray? I know Ms. Gallagher also took a look at this agreement we're entering into with Driftwood Water Adventures. Mr. Galloway.
No real questions, just some comments. I know that everyone enjoyed it very much last year. And you say the kickoff is Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. And I don't know if I'll be doing the calisthenics or anything, but I look forward to coming down and using some of your equipment and enjoying it. Thank you.
Mr. Dents?
Just to echo what Mr. Galloway said, no, I have no questions. This is pretty much the same as last year. And you did a great job last year, and hopefully we can continue this.
And we appreciate that, and we appreciate the faith in that responsibility.
Right.
We do take it very serious.
Mr. Rocco?
So we'll end around Labor Day? Is that what you guys are thinking?
Yeah, around Labor Day, yeah.
Okay, yeah, and I agree. I've had the opportunity to go on the paddle boards and the kayaks. It was a good time out there, so thank you.
Yep, and I guess this year too, we got started, so we want to integrate our programs more into the Township and Recreation Department too. Your new staff there, I think we'll find some unique opportunities to provide, the residents with something they wouldn't have if we weren't there. And we're looking at that and very excited about doing stuff beyond what we did last year with you guys.
Okay. All right. So let's see. So the proposal is essentially just that we're offering them the opportunity to operate. Ms. Gallagher, is that an accurate way of putting it? Operate at our park. They have rates that they set for the various activities that they're doing.
That's correct, and the rates are set forth in the proposal. So what we recommend is that the board entertain a motion to approve the proposal, and then a separate motion to approve the indemnity agreement, which Mr. Mulhern has already signed on behalf of Driftwood.
Okay. All right, and that was my follow-up question, was in terms of insurance. If someone, I was knocking wood as you were talking about having, no incidents last year, just in case. But assuming no one, that we have, if there is some kind of an incident, it's Driftwood that's responsible, not us.
Yes, they have already provided the certificate of insurance, which names the township as an additional insured, and they have signed an indemnity agreement, which indemnifies the township against any accident that may occur as a result of these activities.
Okay. All right, any comments or questions on either of those issues?
No.
No? Okay. All right, so we're looking at two things. Any public comment? See no hands. Is there a motion to approve the proposal from Driftwood Water Adventures for their kayak, canoe, paddleboard rentals at the Township Park?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
And is there a motion to approve the indemnity agreement presented or that between the Township and Driftwood Water Adventures?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
For your time, appreciate it, guys.
All right, item 6 is consider quotes for chlorine and muriatic acid services for the Pinewood Pool season 2014. Mr. Gray.
Yes, the township secured 3 quotes for chlorine and muriatic acid for use at the Pinewood Pool for 2014. The quotes are as follows. Buckman's $2.36 per gallon for chlorine, Baradelli's $2.32, and Chemical Equipment Labs $1.79. And muriatic acid, Buckman's $17.93, Baradelli's $17.93, and Chemical Equipment Labs $17.50. Chemical Equipment Labs was recently purchased by Buckman's. The board is asked to consider Baradelli's for the purchase of chlorine and muriatic acid for the Pinewood Pool for the 2014 season.
All right, comments or questions from board members for Mr. Gray?
No.
I assume that Buckman's wouldn't honor the other prices of that lowest company?
They are no longer in business. We've had some problems with Buckman's, so we felt it'd be better to go with Baradelli.
That's all.
Yeah, so Chemical Equipment Labs is no longer.
They were recently purchased by Buckman's.
Okay. All right, that's all I had.
All right, so Baradelli's chlorine, $2.32 a gallon, $17.93 per 5 gallon from muriatic acid.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's a recommendation of the township manager. Any public comment needed? See no hands. Okay, is there a motion then to approve the quotes or award the business, I should say, to Baradelli's using the quotes stated in the May 1st, 2014 memo from Mr. Gray?
So moved?
Seconded.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Item number 7, consider authorization for advertisement for camera installation at the Falls Township Municipal Building. Mr. Gray.
Yes, at the April 15, 2014 Board of Supervisors meeting, the board approved the purchase of cameras at the Township building. The installation of the cameras requires to be bid. The board is asked to consider authorization to advertise for the installation of the cameras.
Okay. And just as a reminder, Mr. Gray, what are the cameras for? Where are we adding them?
The cameras will be in the interior of the building. Majority of the cameras will be in the police department. They will be in the jail cells, some of the walkways, and there will also be some in the administrative part of the building, monitoring the various activities within the building. And there'll also be one in the atrium walkway as well.
Okay. And most of these are, or a lot of these are replacements?
Yes, combination, mostly replacements, but there are some new ones as well. And they'll have a better quality picture. They're all color, so that'll always be a plus. And it'll be an improvement to the township. And if the township ever does move out, we can take these cameras with us as well.
Okay. Other comments or questions?
No.
None.
Okay. All right, is there a motion then to authorize advertisement for the installation of the cameras in the Falls Township building?
So moved.
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item 8 is consider authorization for advertisement for adopting Article 8 of Chapter 203 of the Falls Township Code. Ms. Gallagher, you worked on this?
I did. Thank you, Mr. Harvey. This ordinance would add an additional article to Chapter 203, which relates to vehicles and traffic, and would allow for special permits for vehicles of excessive weight and size. It would allow permits only up to, I believe it's 91,000 pounds total, and only upon consideration and submission of a permit application each and every year, and a permit fee of $500 per year. It would be similar to the way that the township has the records ordinance set up, that we would continue to monitor these types of vehicles, and it would only be for prescribed routes in the township. There are some businesses in the township that have approached PennDOT to obtain similar permits for PennDOT roads, and PennDOT has indicated their approval for that. So this would line up with what PennDOT's allowing these companies to already do.
Okay. The background for this is that one of the businesses inside the KIPC has vehicles which are loaded inside the KIPC, and then they travel to a facility outside the KIPC, and they travel on a combination of state road and township road. The total distance is about 2 miles, and much of that is, inside the KIPC. And as it is, there's increased truck traffic because of restrictions on the weight that the trucks can carry. And so one of the ideas that the company had was that they were allowed to carry a heavier load with their vehicles. They could do less trips. It makes them more efficient. It helps them do business. PennDOT has given approval for them to operate on PennDOT roads at the increased weight. And they asked for our permission to go on some of our roads at the increased weight. The roads we're looking at are essentially in industrial parks. They're non-residential roads, and so it's a pretty short distance. And so it's something that we did talk to we had our traffic enforcement officer sitting in the meeting with us, and he got to ask all the questions he wanted to ask, and he took a look at it, and he feels that there's this is an appropriate thing to do. It should be noted, I think, that we're not letting them go up to the weight they had originally asked for.
Which was a lot more.
Yeah, it was just a lot more. We told them no, but we did sort of compromise on a weight that we felt was that our police officers were comfortable with. And again, given the roads they're traveling on, and the fact that it's really not that many trips to begin with, I think there's only maybe half a dozen
It's not that many now.
Yeah, of
And
like all day. I mean, there's like, I think 6 trips that the trucks take, in the course of the day.
Right, and it would only allow them to carry specific substances. Here, this would be for grain products.
Right.
So it would not be any kind of liquid or anything that might have different weight limits. It's
Right.
very narrowly tailored so that it's just for specific substances, specific distances, specific roads.
Right, exactly. Thank you
We were
for,
thinking that if PennDOT gives the approval, then we'll be okay with it, right?
right.
And I believe PennDOT may have already given their approval or indicated that they would.
Other comments or questions from Ms. Gallagher? This is just authorizing advertisement.
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Again, there's no residential roads. These aren't trucks that are coming into the township with this weight or leaving the township. They're just going from basically the steel mill area.
Right.
Correct.
And just outside into the industrial park and back and forth.
Correct. And our permits, when they're issued, will tell them specifically which roads they can go on, and it's a maximum of 2.5 miles.
Yeah, and the standard's 80,000, and they're asking for 91, right?
I believe that's the case, yes.
Right. Yeah,
That's all I had.
yeah, I think they asked, I think,
It
115,000?
was well over 100, yes,
Yeah.
and our traffic enforcement officer recommended against that strongly.
Right, so again, authorizing advertisement for the amendment to Chapter 203. Is there a
Or just
motion?
advertising.
Just advertising, right, authorizing advertisement for the motion, for the amendment to Chapter 203. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, minutes are for April 15th, 2014. Comments or questions regarding the minutes? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Dents?
Excellent minutes once again, Mrs. Pullen.
Mr. Rocco?
I have none.
And I have none. Thank you, Ms. Pullen, for your efforts. Is there a motion to accept the minutes April 15th, 2014 as presented?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, executive session. We don't have need for an executive session. Manager comment, Mr. Gray.
Yes, just a few items tonight. First item, the township received a request from Travelers Insurance for the release of Coin Chemicals Restoration Bond. T&M engineers have reviewed and confirmed all work has been completed for the release. The board is asked to consider release of the restoration bond for Coin Chemical.
Okay. Any comments or questions?
No.
Nope.
None.
Okay. Okay, is it necessary, I don't know, ask our solicitor, is it necessary to state the amount of the bond that we're releasing, or just the fact that we're releasing the restoration bond?
Ms. Gallagher?
I don't think it's necessary to say the amount that's being
Okay.
released. It's not that you can't. There's
Right.
no secret.
There's no yeah, okay,
You're just releasing the bond.
okay. All right, is there a motion then to release the restoration bond of Coin Chemical?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Just a few announcements from the Park and Rec Department. The Falls Township Family Festival and Queue for the Troops event will be held on June 6th and 7th at the Falls Township Community Park. The Queue for the Troops event will start Friday afternoon and continue on Saturday in conjunction with the Falls Township Family Festival. The Queue for the Troops is a barbecue competition with proceeds to benefit the Liberty USO. On Saturday, June 7th, there will be live entertainment, a car show, children's carnival rides, information tables, food vendors, fireworks, and more. This event is for all ages and will run from 12 until 9 p.m. The rides and games will be open from 3 p.m. until 8 p.m. The event is free to attend. Food and beverages will be available for purchase from several unique food vendors. The Queue for the Troops portion of this event is held rain or shine, and the rain date for the Family Festival activities and fireworks is Saturday, June 21st, excuse me. Also, the Park and Rec Department is also in need for lifeguards for the upcoming Pinewood pool season. And finally, Penske Mylars are ready for signature. That's all I have.
Bless you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Gray. Board comment, Mr. Rocco?
I have none. Good night, everyone.
All right, Mr. Dents?
Yes. Last night was the first meeting of the Neighborhood Traffic Advisory Council. This is something that we've been working on for a long time. It took a long time to get to this point where we're actually having meetings. It's a group of residents. We still do need volunteers. We only have 3. There are 2 seats available. They'll be working with the police. The police will provide manpower and technology to monitor speed and traffic. They have targeted one area in Falls already. I guess I probably shouldn't say where or what they're going to be doing, but they have a lot of really good ideas. So if anybody has traffic concerns on your street, and I know everybody does, because when I went door knocking, campaigning, for this seat, that was the biggest complaint and still the biggest problem people have is traffic in every neighborhood, on every street. So they're working hard. I'm going to expand on what Mr. Gray said about the queue for the troops. This year we have 65 teams. This started out 5 years ago, and it's actually in that picture up there, of 12 teams backyard barbecuing, and it's grown bigger every year. It's gotten better every year, and we've raised a lot of money for Liberty USO, which does a lot of good right in this direct area. It's not just the USO you're giving it to, it's all the Liberty USO, which stays right here in the Delaware Valley. The Family Festival will be Saturday. It's going to be a great event. And I think that's all I have tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Kickball.
Oh, right.
The Parks and Rec Department started an adult kickball league. So if anybody's out there interested in playing kickball, they should contact the Parks and Rec Department. I think they have 9 teams already and space for about 5 more. So that should be fun. That's all, that's it.
I know one team is already a clear favorite to win the championship.
Yes.
So.
Team Jeff and Bob.
and others.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Galloway.
Just that I look forward to the queue for the troops. I'm not too sure about the kickball. We'll
He's on the
talk
wrong
about
team.
That. My entry did beat one other team last year, even though it was kind of raw. So I think I have nowhere to go but up this year.
There you go.
So I thank Jeff Dents for all the work that he does down there. I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a few things. First, some business. Our next meeting is scheduled for May 20th, which is Election Day, as is the custom. We typically move our meeting to the next day, which is Wednesday, the 21st, if that's agreeable to the board members.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking it was a DARE graduation, but.
No, I think it's the next weekend.
Okay, you got it.
Yeah, I think.
Probably doesn't matter.
You might be right then, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, it's man or DARE, but yeah.
Okay. Will we think about maybe Monday the 19th instead?
Yeah, you want to do it?
Yeah, let's do that.
Does that matter?
I'm good with Monday night.
Either with Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, rather?
Yeah, let's do Monday. We can do man or DARE.
Does that work, Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Clark and Ms. Gallagher checking their calendars?
We'll be able to work it out.
Okay. Okay. All right, so we'll make it Monday the 19th instead. Okay. All right, and obviously that, we'll have one more meeting before Election Day, so I can talk about election, but then. The presentation you saw this evening from Mr. Robbins of URS is something that's been in the works for a long time. Began really with a traffic issue that was affecting Lower Makefield and residents of Falls, and we started looking at maybe other ways of improving traffic flow in that area. From Pine Grove all the way down to the river, or from the river to Pine Grove, either direction. And the township was successful going together with Lower Makefield and Marsville and getting a grant to do the work that you saw this evening and the work that's going to continue. But there's a limit, obviously, to the things that, the members of the board and members of the staff here at the township can do, and even the members or the people that are part of the URS or the other businesses are working on this, professionals that are working on this. Public comment is always something that we could use and would benefit. Everybody who lives in that area, works in that area, shops in that area, goes to the restaurants in that area. So pay attention to what's on the website. If you have some comments or concerns about ways to make West Trenton better in any way, we welcome your comments and welcome your input. So we'd appreciate that, and hopefully it'll be up on the website over the next few days. And also want to wish Happy Mother's Day to all the moms and grandmoms coming up this weekend. And so it's a holiday that is never really forgotten. Or at least at your own peril, nobody forgets it. Okay, otherwise you get in trouble. But no, happy Mother's Day to all the moms and grandmoms and stepmoms and everybody else in Falls Township who plays that critical role in the development of children and the family. We hope it's a beautiful day for everybody, and especially the moms, and hope you're treated like you should be, which should you be treated that way all year long, but especially on that day. And one other comment, just a Memorial Day parade, the American Legion Post 834, a little early notice, but Sunday, May 25th will be Memorial Day parade. Starts as usual at Pennsbury High School and ends at the Veterans Park in Fallsington, across from the firehouse and the American Legion Post. And again, thanks to the Pennsbury cheerleaders for coming this evening, and congratulations to them on their achievements. And hopefully we can do a lot more of those for our students at Pennsbury High School. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.